Hey, everybody, and welcome to the bonus edition of Fantasy NBA. Today, it's my 30-team Bruski breakdown extravaganza, a sports ethos presentation presented by our great partners at FanDuel. So, week 3's in the books. We're off to the races. I believe we're going to cover about 200 players here. The over-unders maybe like 173 or something. But it is super important that we do this. Week 3, we've got about 10 games worth of data, a little bit more. And that's a lot, and we're starting to see trends that happen in week 1 and week 2 change, reverse course, pivot. And we're getting a lot of data on what the reality of everything that we're going to be talking about is going to be. So let's get right to it. I do want to hit some quick news and notes as we're getting into the meaty part of the injury news for today. So bear with me as I quickly switch some screens here, and I'm just going to rattle some stuff off. It looks like we've got an illness going through the Phoenix locker room, but nothing too crazy right now. Royce O'Neal shows up probable on the injury report, and that's the only real new change in news there. Obviously, Jalen Green out. Miles Bridges got a probable tag after being listed with a questionable tag, so that is good news if you have Miles Bridges. Karis LeVert questionable for the second leg of the back-to-back on Monday. Not too surprising there. Asar Thompson pops up on the injury report with a right ankle sprain, and watching that game, seeing it happen, he played through it. It's not surprising that that thing swole up overnight. That was a real tough game against Philadelphia yesterday on Sunday. And so Asar Thompson now questionable. Isaiah Stewart out, though the Philadelphia broadcasters thought that he was closer to probable for yesterday's game. It turns out that's not the case. So Isaiah Stewart just a little bit slow getting back, in bad news, and talked about him in my waiver wire article, as well as in the show earlier today with Doc. At least I think I did. And check out that waiver wire article. I just posted it about 45 minutes ago on Twitter, and it's on sportsethos.com. The first 5 of the top 10 are listed for free, and then the rest of them are for Fantasy Pass members. And actually just talking with some of the producers over here, we're going to actually be releasing even more content notes from this particular show, what I actually use to prepare all weekend long. And it's literally every waking moment of all of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, going through basketball stuff. I know, rough life and the occasional soccer game for the kiddo, and maybe a little get together with some friends in there every once in a while. But mostly, especially this time of year when it's so super critical, it's go, 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 go. And I'm going to be releasing that note sheet. I'm not quite sure, but thinking maybe like Discord for premium subscribers. So keep an ear to the ground for that. Remaining notes real quick. Giannis probable for tonight's game against the Mavs. A little bit not surprising, but commendable after he put together a really, really strong effort in last night's game against the Rockets. It looked like he was exhausted. And so he's going to give it a go. Now, the numbers might not be great. If they are, more power to you, Giannis, and your fast start here. Austin Reeves upgraded to probable about an hour ago. So with those updates, I feel like we are caught up as a group, and now we can just get right back into the 30-team breakdown. And because we have so much ground to cover, let's just get right into it. I start with teams that played on Saturday and didn't play on Sunday or Monday. And then I'll do the same for teams that played on Sunday but are not playing tonight. And then we'll finish up and get you guys ready for tonight's games and kind of go chronological order here. So let's start with Denver, who did not play on Sunday, but they played Saturday, and they played the Pacers. And it was, a shellacking and all of those things. Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon got the game off in that game. So really not much of a huge data point for us here, but we did get a big game out of Nikola Jokic as usual. And for all the talk about Victor Wembanyama, we are right back where we started with Nikola Jokic as the top player in fantasy leagues, as he averages a ridiculous line, 25 points, 13 boards, 12 assists, ho-hum, 4.3 cash counting stats, 64% from the field, 86.7% from the line. Nikola Jokic, your number one fantasy play. Who would have thought it? Christian Brown might start showing up on waiver wires, as he's averaged just a top 125 value despite the big 31 minutes. And it's really just the 1.6 cash counting stats working against him. He's down 10% from the field and 20% from the foul line. He's a buy the book, buy low, and I don't think folks are super excited about it. You could probably get him as a throw-in in just about any deal that you can conjure, or Alternatively, you might end up picking him up off the waiver wire. Hang on one second here as I get the sounds off in the background. Cam Johnson, I think he needs an injury, maybe 2, to be worth investing in, because not aside from the fact that he's in the bottom of the top 300 and that's not paying any bills, the upside is so low here. Why are we kind of playing this out? I love the player. I love the fit for Denver. I think this is good for their basketball team. But, if we're banking on an injury or 2 on a low upside guy, that's not great math. And really, this pendulum is going to start swinging with Aaron Gordon, basically regressing on the shooting. He's hitting 55% of his shots from the field and 92% from the foul line on 5 foul shots per game. And so I think we'll see some of this value shift from Aaron Gordon over to Christian Brown and Cam Johnson. But again, Cam Johnson, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze there. With Brown, he's able to get up into the top 50, 60 range because of the high field goal percentage and getting way more cash counting stats of threes and steals and blocks than he's been getting. So that's a nice little appetizer to get into some of the more complicated stuff. Not that Toronto fits the bill here, but Toronto, they took on Philadelphia on Saturday. Jakob Poeltl still finding his way back. Just 6 games played, 23 minutes per game. The target there, if you're speculating about Jakob Poeltl, is going to be late round value this season. I don't think it's going to be much more. Scotty Barnes has a top 15 start. He's got 5.2 cash counters per game to go with 20 points, 7 boards, 5 assists. He's nearly doubled his 3-point percentage from last season. And that would be the argument to do a sell high here, but I wouldn't go overboard. I think with Scotty Barnes, the key element here is that it feels like he's playing smarter basketball. It feels like he's playing more efficient basketball. So yeah, that shooting's going to come back, but I'll take a top 25 Scotty Barnes who seems to be happy and healthy and all the things are going right. And I can live with that. He gets drafted a little heavy, a little early. It felt like when I was drafting him this season, I was drafting him at value. But I'm good with that. All things going well for Scotty Barnes to start. I think there's going to be a standing sell high on RJ Barrett. This trade scenario looms large. I just don't think that it's going to be a good transaction for him wherever he heads. And maybe about a third to half of the scenarios, maybe even 2/3 of the scenarios that he ends up in, he takes a value hit. So I like the sell high on RJ Barrett, and I like the buy low on Emmanuel Quickley, who has started to creep up toward the territory where you drafted him in an early mid-round value. He's got 4 games now at 32 minutes, 16 points, 3 triples, 5 boards, 5.5 assists, and solid free throw numbers. This was the Emmanuel Quickley that you thought you were getting on draft day. The overall season-long numbers don't look good. You got about 1, 2, 3 games for a buy low, and I don't think it's actually going to be him getting out of the woods here. I think it's going to be about a top 100 kind of a stretch here, with the top 75 slowly coming. And then after this trade, the hope will be that they bring back a complementary piece that allows him to be more active in the pick and roll where he can really do some damage quickly. All right, that's the teams that played Saturday. And as we settle in here, hello to the new listeners. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure that you're subscribed over at YouTube with the subscribe button. If you're watching this on Twitter, get on over to YouTube. It's youtube.com/sportsethos. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Do all that stuff. We're releasing so much stuff across different platforms. It's hard to keep up with it. You got to make sure you're dialed in and subscribed into all the different places. Also, check out our free app. Get to sportsethos.com and find your way to the link for the app. It's free. It has our blurb feed. It also has tools and projections that you can tap into there. Check out a membership. The projections, as you can see from the work that we do here, we're just constantly cranking on this stuff, making sure that our projections are the best in the game. And with the tools, you'll be able to just simply always have the best pickup and always have the best matchups and always have the best everything. So get on over to the website and check all of that out. Now, as far as teams that played Sunday and do not play tonight, we're going to rattle through these guys. We got Brooklyn played New York yesterday. Brooklyn is terrible to watch and terrible to talk about, but we'll do our best here. Cam Thomas is going to be out a while with the hamstring injury. Hamstrings, of course, are the injuries of the week here in the NBA. Day'Ron Sharpe also out, same thing. And everybody was terrible in this game. They lost by 36 points to the Knicks. finding things to talk about with this team is tough. Nick Claxton has kind of been a good thing lately, hanging out in the top 50 range for the past couple weeks. That's a top 75 to 90 on the season. He shot between 48 and 58% from the foul line in his first 6 years as an NBA player. And he's sitting on a 70.8% mark on 4.8 attempts per game. So that number's coming back most likely. The good news will be, though, did he figure something out from the foul line? And you might see a 2-3 round value shift in a best case scenario if he was able to figure that out. But as of right now, Nick Claxton probably a little bit better than people think he is. And in terms of players in Brooklyn that you can kind of hang your hat on, he's probably the only guy. Zaire Williams and Terrence Mann are fighting it out for the third best fantasy play, with Michael Porter Jr. Whenever he's upright, going to probably get his shots, and that's going to be that. On the New York side, we had an eventful line out of Mitchell Robinson, 16-minute start, 8 points, 8 boards, 2 steals, 2 blocks. He's always going to be in play for a line like this whenever he's on the floor. The days off and the injury risk are obviously the other side of the coin with that. But if you can get Mitchell Robinson when he's healthy, get out there and do your thing. The bigger story here, I think it's peak sell high time for Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. They're almost basically first round value producers this season. That's not really what they're going to do. That's not what they're projected to do. And you got Karl Anthony Towns fighting his way back up the ranks after an injury driven slow start and maybe even a Mike Brown driven slow start. And he's got about a week at back end first round production. So I think these two ships are going to pass in the night, and you're going to see Bridges and Anunoby start to fall back to top 30, 40, and 50 in the case of Bridges, 60 even in the case of Bridges value. And as you even attribute injury risk to OG Anunoby, I think this is just a peak sell high time. I don't know what you can get out there. Maybe you can get like top 30 for OG Anunoby, top 40 for OG Anunoby, maybe 10 slots, 20 slots back for Mikal Bridges, since some of the optics haven't been good for him historically over the last 2-3 years. And at any rate, if you get anything in that ballpark, you've done good business. And the buy low on Karl Anthony Towns is probably 1 or 2 games away from being all the way shut. Their teammate Josh Hart, as I was saying in the earlier show today, sitting on a top 60 to 75 week that's really quiet, 14 points, 2.3 triples, 7.3 rebounds, 3.7 assists, just 0.3 defensive stats in that span, offsetting some of the overstated shooting here of 65.4% from the field. So I think he's a top 100 guy going forward. And the news has been so bad for him this year that I think he's a little bit undervalued at this point. Now we'll do it for that game. We got Boston at Orlando. Now Orlando plays tonight, so I'll just cover Boston right now. There is a buy low window here for Derek White. And on the season, he's going to be about a top 25 to 35 value. His season-long production to date is in the top 50 to 70 range. Now, he's gotten 14 defensive stats in his last 3 games. He's averaged 8 assists and 2 3-pointers during that time. Okay, so the assists are a little poppy. The defensive stats, people look at them and maybe just kind of dismiss them. Yeah, it's Derek White. I didn't look and count how many there were over the last 3 games. And he's got an average of about 10 points over his last 4 games. And that's the big number that people really, truly key in on. I think this is probably the last crack of the buy low door being open for him. And some of this field goal percentage shooting, not just for him, but the team at large. Once Joe Mazzulla stops playing musical chairs with the rotation, I think you're going to start to see that efficiency climb up and into places that it would normally be. Derek White, small buy low window. Slow week for Nemish Keita. Free throw issues, but he's toward the bottom of the top 150, but still sitting on a strong late round value and a bounce back here on the way. I don't think we're worried about Nemish Keita in the slightest around here. Josh Minot continuing to get yanked around, and I just think the easy thing to do here, guys, is just evaluate him as a late round value, ride the ups and downs, and hope you get to the end of the season and hope that February and March and April bring it to more of a top 100 as the floor, and you're starting to see these top 50 lines on a more regular basis. It makes sense that Mazzulla, the way he's coaching right now, would yank a guy like Josh Minot around. It's not fun, but that's just the way it's going to be, and hopefully it gets normalized here sooner rather than later. Peyton Pritchard, might be low-key the bigger story or the biggest story here in Boston. He's had a disappointing top 125 start after being drafted in the 50s and the 60s and sometimes in the 70s, but mostly in like the 60s. And his efficiency's totally slid. He's got a 14% difference from the three-point line on the same amount of three-point shots that he took last season. And I'm not sure that the makeup here, once he makes up that 14% difference, I'm not sure this is going to all turn into the type of ADP value that folks were expecting to get in the top 60 range. I think that he needs more volume. There needs to be less shooting out of Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown doesn't play like that, so it might not happen. But you were hoping heading into the season that the team would prioritize Peyton Pritchard on the ball. Looking at the film, he's good enough to handle that. But at the same time, he needs the system around him to also embrace sort of a full-blown role for Peyton Pritchard. It hasn't happened yet, and it doesn't look like it's on the docket, at least here in the next month or two. So we'll just keep a close eye on that. And then the backup to that would be Jaylen Brown's not a healthy dude, and this team might not be playing for anything. So Peyton Pritchard does have another gear in the event that Jaylen Brown does go down. Anthony Simons is outside the top 150 this season, and he feels like he's just not fitting in there. He's been chewed out by Missoula several times. He's been benched by Missoula. They're not happy with his defense. He's talking, saying the quiet parts out loud about not trying on defense. It's all bad for Anthony Simons in the sense that he needs to really nail this season to help his trajectory as an NBA player, where he ends up next and what happens with him. And who knows, maybe getting, burnt in Boston and held back a little bit would be good for his career, but it kind of doesn't feel like it. That'll do it for that one. Let's get to Indiana and Golden State. Benedict Mathurin, Quentin Jackson, not quite day-to-day. Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, questionable after missing the last game. The tone of the season is really in question here for Indiana. I believe they're 1-9 off the top of my head. They're getting run out of the gym. Andrew Nembhard got back. That's good news. But he hit just 33% of his shots on a whopping 18 attempts per game, highlighting the efficiency issues here. I think before we bury them, I would like to see Mathurin back. I'm not sure that I would wait on a burial for my power forward friend whose name I can't remember at the top of my head. Obi Toppin. Yes, brain. We can do this. They're bad, and this start puts them in a deep hole for any sort of playoff aspirations. And I'm very concerned that this season goes south. So for whoever we're talking about here, we need to see Indiana win a few games. And if they can win a few games and get that win-loss record to something like 5-9, look down the road a little bit more like 7-12, just keep it tight, keep it close to 500. And then I don't think a lot of these guys go through the worst case scenarios that it looks like they could be in. The centers kind of got it together this past week. Jay Huff, 8 points, 1.5 triples, 5.5 boards is good for him. 2.8 blocks is obviously the draw, and 17.1 minutes per game. Isaiah Jackson, 22.3 minutes, more of a straight ahead blocking stat set without the blocks actually, but 11.3 points, 7.3 boards, 1.5 steals, 0.5 blocks. Just sort of getting out there and blocking and tackling, but without the blocks. That metaphor sucks. Jarris Walker has been flat out bad. He's hitting just 33% of his shots. He's taking a lot of shots. A lot of them look terrible as he's taking them, but somebody's got to take shots in Indiana. I'm hoping that the guards return and he keeps the minutes, that the shots, maybe even the attempts go down a little bit, but that they're more efficient and he can kind of focus on just getting good counting stats, which he's done pretty good. The counting stats aren't bad for Jarris Walker, but if you care about percentages at all, he's been really struggling toward the bottom of the top 200 and worse even in certain stretches. But he's the last man standing. He's got some talent, and we've seen some good productivity out of him in the past. Again, everybody in Indiana just has to get it together at the same time. On the other side, Golden State. So Stephen Curry had that terrible flu. He's going to play tonight or probably Tuesday. So that's good. He's been the 9th best fantasy player in fantasy basketball when on the floor this season. So aside from getting sick, he's been right where you wanted him to be. Now, Jimmy Butler's off to a top 40 to 50 start. He's played in 10 of 11 games. This is pretty much an unqualified win for Jimmy Butler to start off the season. And I think they go as much as he goes, and maybe that's just such an easy thing to say, but if Jimmy Butler's playing, I just think everybody else's value is going to be good in Golden State. Moses Moody just outside the top 100 on the season, 23 minutes per game. He's getting a lot of defensive stats right now. He's averaging 4.7 cash counting stats per game right now. His percentages are reasonable, but a little bit high. 12 points, 2.7 triples, other key numbers here. And the defensive numbers are really what we're looking at here. They're about 60 to 70% over previous seasons. So he either got really good at defense or he's on a little bit of a heater. I like the length and the mobility and the potential for defensive stat production here. I like the fact that Jimmy Butler is around to make this a better defensive team. Helps everybody with the defensive numbers. Moody might have passed the test with Steve Kerr, and I'm spending a little bit of time here on Moody because he might be a top 100 guy the rest of the season. He might be more answer than problem in Golden State, and having been through all those battles with Steve Kerr, maybe this is the time he's breaking through, and you can get a little bit of value on a guy that most people are treating like a streamer and not really putting a lot of stock in. If you're in a 150 to 200 player league, Moses Moody might actually represent something of a good positive value for you. So hence the extra time there. Draymond Green, Brandon Pajemski, late round values, nothing surprising there. And then Jonathan Kuminga, who really took a lot of headlines early and took a lot of, praise early for his solid early play. Steve Kerr went out and talked nicely about him. And then I noticed immediately after that, we saw a lot of Jonathan Kuminga mistakes or selfish play. And now all of a sudden the numbers have slid back to the bottom of the top 150 and then 200 in 9 category leagues. All the same stuff that we've seen all the time out of Jonathan Kuminga. So really not the step forward that folks were hoping for yet. Look for the bounce back. Look for Golden State to embrace the bounce back because I do believe that they want to trade him at a high point. Let's get to the Houston side of the Houston at Milwaukee game. They're healthy. Reed Shepherd's been hanging around as a top 100 guy the past 2 weeks. That's probably the biggest story, at least for B150 enthusiasts and myself. But even I think a lot of people had stock in Reed Shepherd as the last point guard standing in Houston, top 3 pick overall. I mean, you don't need me to tell you all this stuff. Reed Shepherd has been disappointing for a lot of folks. A lot of folks have cracked on his defense. A lot of folks have kind of positioned him as sort of unplayable. And at the same time, through the first week or two of the season, it felt like Houston didn't care about him. And this, I think, is maybe something for everybody to footnote and remember as we go through future seasons in fantasy basketball is the order of operations for each team. It's really a prioritization of their top players and their top goals and their top objectives. And somebody like Reed Shepherd, in this case, when you're integrating Kevin Durant and you've got Alperen Şengün, you got Amen Thompson, huge pieces that are really kind of eclectic and these disparate pieces, you want to make them play well together. And Reed Shepherd can go kick rocks, if you're the Houston Rockets. They're not running any pick and roll for this guy, not taking advantage of his stat set or his skill set at all. And then the numbers come in and they're not great. And I thought that they were actually pretty good for the not great. So, obviously we're advising to hold and buy low and all of the things. And lo and behold, Reed Shepherd's starting to have big plays. Reed Shepherd's starting to step into the flow of the offense and them starting to run some small amount of actions for him. And then he's making big plays within the flow of the game. He had several defensive plays over the last few games that were the kind of highlight plays that they end a quarter of the telecast as they go to the timeout and the break, and they show the slow-mo of the team embracing him and him jumping around. And I tweeted a couple of those out. I think Reed Shepherd earned a lot of confidence from his teammates over the last 3 to 4 games. And I think if you're Houston and you have no way to get out of this point guard issue, it becomes a priority really quickly to get Reed Shepherd going. Now, it's not going to be gangbusters, and it's not going to replace any of the 3 guys that I just said, Amen Thompson, Şengün, or Durant. It's not going to replace them in the pecking order anytime soon. Though with Amen Thompson, we do have something to talk about there for sure. Reed Shepherd, you probably have another week or 2 even to get a significant buy low gain out there. So I recommend that you start working those offers up and start making longer term attempts to get Reed Shepherd into the rotation before it becomes clear that maybe he's not the third option, but he's like 3B over there in Houston. Okay. Kevin Durant, I think this is an interesting dynamic, not just from a fantasy basketball perspective, but a reality basketball perspective. He's taking a backseat to Alperen Şengün, and that's all good and fine. I think Şengün just doesn't have a regulator. He just goes and does Alperen Şengün stuff, and he's just going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until somebody tells him to stop. Kevin Durant, been a top 40 to 55 value on the season, and as long as they're winning, which they are, I think Kevin Durant will be fine with this. But the minute they face adversity, if this pendulum doesn't swing back to him and he doesn't get most of what he would normally get in a normal situation, I think you'll start to see the gripes. And then I think it'll be interesting to see how these two players work all of that out. I think the early returns is that they will work it out positively. But that said, the minute your defensive liability starts taking on credit and everybody else on the team knows it, that's when things start to get iffy for this kind of a configuration. So we'll see how that all plays out. Jabari Smith had been sitting on a very interesting mid-round start to start the season on the strength of some pretty good defensive numbers. All that leveled out, and now he's back to the top 100. And the question for Jabari Smith is always going to be, can this guy ever be a top 75 player just consistently? At top 75 levels, you're fine with the dips. You want to give me a top 125 line? That's fine. It plays. You want to give me a top 50 line to make up for it? Thank you. Top 75, ballpark, top 100. I can live with that. It's when he's top 125 and these stretches of poor play start dipping into the 150 and the 175 range. Folks can't handle that, and that's been the issue with Jabari Smith the entire time. He also represents a very unique player in today's NBA landscape where you're starting to get these Wembys out there, the Khalil Wares out there who are 7 foot a million and can shoot threes and dribble. And Jabari Smith has a archetype that is very, very valuable for defending that kind of a player. So Jabari Smith got paid. He's part of this unit. They don't have the depth that they had in the past in Houston, so it makes sense that he would be good. My hope is that this dip is going to make him bounce back and fall into that latter bucket of, yeah, I'm a top 75 guy, and the dips are okay, and the big lines make it even better, and I'm not getting dropped every time I have a slow stretch. Jabari Smith. Now, Tari Eason could be the pendulum swing in this case as well. He's been outside of the top 100. He's played in Houston's first 9 games. They have not had a back-to-back yet. That's just a weird scheduling note that I came across that will inform their energy levels. It will inform, obviously, Tari Eason's injury situation and why he's been in on every game. And the really bummer part about this is he has not capitalized. Being outside of the top 100 and playing every night was not what folks wanted when they got Tari Eason. They basically say, I'll take Tari Eason in a draft because I get top 50 numbers, and that makes the days off worth it. So Tari Eason, we might see a slide in both games played and then overall value as a result if he's just going to be a top 100 guy. And the reality is that this team is stacked, and that brings me to Amen Thompson. Just top 90 to 120 on the season. Now, he's not going to be this low forever. This isn't a crap on Amen Thompson situation. He was a B150 darling last season, and I pretty much faded him this season because of the overhype and the overdraft and all of the things. Now, he's improved a little bit from the foul line, but he's got a big dip in rebounding, and maybe it's all those big, tall guys he plays with, but almost half of the defensive production of last season. That's the part I think folks can hang their hat on and know that part is very likely, if not guaranteed, to go back to where it was last year. The shooting is 6 to 7% lower from the field, and he's basically doubled his three-point shooting. It's not a lot. It's just an additional 1.3 attempts per game. That's not the entire reason for the shooting slowdown. That's a little bit of the reason. The other reason is really standing around and watching Şengün and Durant operate, and it's good for Şengün and it's good for Durant, and these guys in their silos can play very, very well and beat the competition and even get other people involved to some degree. But overall, Amen Thompson is standing and looking at something that's not great a lot of the time. He's not going to just power drive through and have Alperen Şengün in the lane and have that work out every single time. So he's not getting a lot of great opportunities. And I think that might be the third, fourth priority for the Houston Rockets is we got to get Amen Thompson going. And don't be surprised if it starts as soon as like this week. So some definite buy low potential there, but also some issues in the sense that if this team doesn't really fashion itself to be Amen Thompson friendly, first round value, hell no. Second round value might be like a long shot. Third and fourth round value might be like a 50-50 proposition. And a lot of people spent late first round, early second round, definitely second round picks for Amen Thompson, especially after the Fred VanVleet news. So a lot of value loss potential there for Amen Thompson. And yes, an associated buy low opportunity. So interesting stuff in Houston. Now, Oklahoma City played at Memphis. Jalen Williams, I feel like we're going to get an update like during the show. So we're due an update. We're owed an update. The unfortunate go back in and clean up whatever they needed to clean up in the right wrist, which worried me. And with some injury reporting, I think we would have seen a further dip for Jalen Williams on draft day, maybe into the late third round, possibly the fourth round. And depending on your format, it was either worth it to fade or to not worry. Because if he's playing in the playoffs for you in a head-to-head league, that's all you care about. And most folks that watch this show or subscribe to fantasy services in general are going to make the playoffs. So all fascinating head-to-head playoff mumbo jumbo. But Chet Holmgren has missed 4 games already this season. I guess we're okay with that. I guess that was baked into the cake. You probably would have liked that to be 3 or 2, but it's 4. And it's early in the season, and they played a lot of basketball last year, in case you didn't know. So we'll live with that. Aaron Wiggins dealing with an adductor, questionable for Tuesday's action. And then Lou Dort questionable with the upper right trap injury. And other than that, though, Shea, he's just fine. He's doing what you expected him to do. Chet Holmgren, top 20 when he plays. Isaiah Hartenstein, classic sell high, top 40. He's been taking advantage of all those absences. Had a huge game against the Kings. The Kings don't count as a professional basketball team. So the Hartenstein number is absolutely 100% inflated. This is not going to continue. He's more of a top 80, 100, 120 guy. Get in there, and I want to hear, anytime there's these big opportunities, I want to hear what you guys did with it. Let me know what you were able to get for Isaiah Hartenstein on a sell high out there. AJ Mitchell and Cason Wallace, they're cruising around the top 50 to 60 on a per game basis. I think that number sits at about 100, maybe 80, especially in the case of Cason Wallace. When Jalen Williams returns, they're just good basketball players. And I think other basketball players are going to give away. They'll give way for these two guys. And sometimes when you have a log jam and you see the player that's good, like in the case of AJ Mitchell, and I think with Cason Wallace, everybody's been doing this already all season long. But in the case of AJ Mitchell, when it became super clear he was on the floor, he was doing things. It was the same player that we saw last year, just better. It was bet on the talent, and everything else will work out in the end. And I think that's the case with AJ Mitchell and Cason Wallace. Might actually bump some of these streaming guys like Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe off the radar once they're at full strength. And by the way, Jalen Williams, I'm told, was shooting with his right hand during pregame. So that's a good sign. I just don't know. Does that mean, is it like this week, next week, the week after that? Come on. Tell me I need him back. All right. Memphis on their side. Zach Edey is pretty much day-to-day now. So that's going to happen here soon. And then you got Jock Landale, has been a late round producer, and it's fine to move on here. I'll just kind of cut to the chase with Jock Landale. But they might give him a 23-minute role going forward. And they might just, with all this stuff going on in Memphis, and it feels like he's a Memphis guy this season, he might find his way through all of that. You might end up seeing Jock Landale have a pretty good end of season number because he just navigated his way through all of that, finishing something like top 80 or something. And in the meantime, though, if you need to drop him for another player, I think you can do that. I think even if he threads the needle with this, it's low upside stuff. So don't worry about it. Just drop Jock Landale if you have to. Now, Ja Morant, he might be trying to play his way out of Memphis. I don't know what's going on with Morant right now, like kind of where his headspace is. Is he all the way checked out? Is he like 10% checked out? And then the media is just making a big deal about it because it's kind of an obvious situation. But regardless, 29% from the field on 18 attempts per game is not going to do the trick. Now he's hitting his free throws, so that's fun. But we need to see something good out of him to take the volume down on the train wreck side of things. And it's not just Ja Morant. It's going to be like Jaren Jackson as well. It feels like he's also in for a rough season. It feels like these two guys just need overall team success to save their fantasy seasons. Otherwise, you're going to be looking at everybody else on the roster. You're going to be looking at Cedric Coward. He continues to impress just as a player, and he's got several more gears. He is an amazing pickup. Just from a reality basketball perspective. Now, he's dropped into the top 50 and 70 range on the season. And I think his numbers lately have been more top 100. And I kind of think you're looking in that 80 to 100 range with the team at full strength for his value production over the next month or so. Now, as this team gets thinner due to injury, whatever happens in the upper ranks and the coaching and the Ja Morant stuff, and the team thins out in general, they're going to be so excited to have Cedric Coward on the floor, and it's going to be back to top 50, back to top 70 production at that point in time. And then we'll see what kind of a high-end gear he has if he hits the rookie wall. These are very, very possible things that could occur. I mean, he'll start showing up on scouting reports. He won't get a free run at all the stuff that he's getting kind of a free run at right now, but it's all good. It's all good. And if you made a big play to get Cedric Coward in a fab situation, that's all good too. And I detail all those fab things in the waiver wire article that I put out on sportsethos.com just about an hour ago. All right. Santi Aldama, he's been all over the board and it's been bad. He's been popping up on injury reports, but he had a big one on Sunday. And even though Zach Edey's coming back, the Aldama archetype within the Memphis ecosystem, it's all good. He scores. He does a little bit of everything. Defensively, he's got issues. He has trouble kind of popping off at a high-end gear. There's always a little bit of a disappointment factor with Santi Aldama, but it feels like he's turned the corner in the sense that give him a little bit of light, and it's probably going to be good for you. It might not be top 50 good. Might not be top 75 good. I had him up in like the 80, 90 range in the B150. I can't remember it. I have to look it up. And I still totally think that's in play for him. He just got to stay healthy. And then this will be the toughest time for him, I think. This part, when Ja either sinks or swims, or Zach Edey comes back and Jaren Jackson's healthy, this might be the toughest time. But the fact that he's playing well yesterday is good enough news for me. Let's get to Philadelphia. We had Detroit at Philadelphia. Already talked or we'll talk about Detroit here in a second. And Philadelphia, this game was outstanding. Watched it from front to start. They have 2 games this week. So right off the top, Joel Embiid will probably play in both. Dominic Barlow's starting to get back. So you got a real full house. I mean, like a really full house. Tyrese Maxey is still your number 4 overall fantasy play. It's just a great thing when you see somebody with that level of quickness, with that shot, that off the dribble pull, even defensively getting after it. Philadelphia just absolutely Tyrese Maxey's team, and he is legit. Now, is he number 4 overall all season legit? Probably a little bit of a sell high moment, but I mean, aside from like maybe injury concerns and, the what if in Philly, if things start really going south because of Embiid, these are tough things to conjure. I don't think this is happening. So I think Tyrese Maxey, he's good to go. It would be a shock if he doesn't finish inside the first round this season, I think, at this point, especially with the amount of good players they have in Philly. This scenario of tanking, it's not going to occur with this team. This team's going to the playoffs, and they'll be even better without Joel Embiid, which is a thing I just said, and I completely stand by it. So, and they'd probably be better without Paul George. I mean, we'll just have to see what he's got in the tank yet. But if he's going to need the ball and be a distraction and I'm the money, I got to play, he needs to come and play his 25 to 30 minutes, pass, be efficient, use the leadership in a strong way, and then he'll make them a better team. And then Joel, just, defensively, he can't do it anymore. And then offensively, as long as he's fitting in, he's a great asset. The team will be better with Joel Embiid. He's got to fit in. I kind of think he will. It's just so much there. And this team could really turn the page and become something super, super nice if they minimize his role. Would probably be the more accurate and less mean way to put that. Trendon Watford had a massive game. Then he followed it up with more of a dud yesterday. He's one of many pieces that they have that are useful and compelling and fit in this power forward bucket. And it is suddenly just like a bunch of riches for Daryl Morey. So I don't think any of those guys, like Dominic Barlow, who could be coming back, I don't think Jabari Walker, I don't think Trendon Watford, I don't think Andre Drummond, I don't think these guys are going to have value in the short or the long term. They're going to be good, and they're going to provide Philadelphia with options. And I also don't think they're going to get in the way of Adem Bona all that much. I think the Bona, Drummond, Embiid triumvirate is filling those center bucket minutes. But it's been good to watch, and it's promising for the old win-loss record that these guys are coming in and they're productive and they're fitting a role and doing all the different things. Trent Watford being an offensive engine and being a hustle guy out there, it's been good for him. But I'm not buying into it from a fantasy perspective, and we'll get to Bona here in a second. But VJ Edgecombe, that sell high from early in the year was really prescient. I guess it was kind of obvious. And at the same time, we'll have a buy low dip here, I think, probably ending, I don't know, maybe in a week or two. I think this team got crowded real quick, and you're going to now introduce Paul George pretty soon, allegedly. It sounds like he's coming back real soon here. So it's going to be more people, and Edgecombe's going to be doing more standing around and trying to figure out where to fit in. Now, he was playing and has been playing about 36 minutes per game. And there's getting a lot of commentary from the locals about not looking like he has his wind. And he's been hitting 30% from the field and 2/3 of his shots from the foul line. And so that, along with the fact that you've got 19 points and 13 shots out of Kelly Oubre, you get 17 points and almost 12 shots out of Quentin Grimes. You got 14 to 18 attempts for Joel Embiid. Tyrese Maxey, 23 attempts. You got Watford getting in there, getting 6 attempts per game. It's hard for him to get shots, and he's seeing his value move to the bottom of the top 100. So I think he might level out as a top 75 guy, maybe a top 50 guy, if it's all going perfectly for him. And yes, if people get injured and things start to work even more in his favor, I think the sky's the limit for him. I mean, when we talk about him in future seasons, we're going to be talking about him the same way that we're talking about all those big name rookies that we all love each and every season. He's got it, and it's going to continue to get better as he learns how to shoot and get more deadly off the pull. It's just going to be fun to watch. But from a fantasy perspective, he's overrated right now, just right now, not overrated at all in general. So let's get to the centers. Andre Drummond, it was, you kind of go back and you read the notes as the pregame notes, and as the game's going on, you kind of all unfolds and you go, oh yes, of course. Drummond was a big part of the game plan against his former team, Detroit. The revenge factor is fun. And when Nick Nurse was asked about the starting lineup, he had this little coy smile. Yeah, we're going to make a change. It's not going to be Adem Bona. It's going to be Andre Drummond. And it's probably the fact that they had such a game plan for Andre Drummond in this game. They were running action for him to get corner threes, and they knew that Jalen Duren wasn't going to go out there, and they just wanted to mess with Jalen Duren a little bit. That defense is so stout, and he's such a big part of it. And Drummond hitting a three is almost worth like 4 points, and the boost that it provides the team, because this is a little fun. That's Andre Drummond doing that, and we just ran a screen for him so he could get a three. It's fun, it's cute, it's all the things. And Drummond is legitimately playing well. He looks spry for a guy that's like 375 pounds or whatever his weight is. You can't move him off the block. He has great hands. Like, he does all the things right now. Of course, if anybody wanted to play Andre Drummond off the court, they can, because you could just put him in a pick and roll and focus on him and all of the things. But in that game, they weren't going to do that. And that was just, free money for the Sixers to enjoy the benefits of having Andre Drummond on the floor. It worked out great. And they're going to keep running that back, especially anytime Embiid's out. You can almost just pencil Andre Drummond in for a double-double and some defensive stats, maybe a three. I don't like him shooting threes. He's going to get down to the block and do his damage down there. But that's just something to keep an eye on. Now, on the flip side, Adem Bona, as I said in the earlier show, like, I was going to watch that game and I needed to know Is he playing well? Is he down? Is Nick Nurse against him? If he's a luxury stash, you got to be playing well. You got to have all those things going for you. And he did it every single play. He was standing out like crazy. He had 3 plays in a row where he either had a defensive play or assisted in some way that resulted in a game momentum changing play. He had plays where the kind of classic coach is going to show this on film as an example to the rest of the team. Probably like 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 of those kinds of plays in just 10 minutes on the floor. Okay, so what does this tell us? Well, Adem Bona is only a luxury stash at this point, and you are just trying to hold that space for somebody that theoretically Joel Embiid goes down, Andre Drummond goes down, he's the guy. And then they say, hey, it's a priority. We need him in the screen game. We need to hit him on the short roll. We need to get him acclimated to the rigors of an NBA team, which can't just rely on 5-out, dribble drive, drive and kick kind of stuff with Bona in the dunker spot and a center standing in the middle of the paint with Bona just sort of out of the action. I think right now he's out of the action because they don't want to complicate things. But in this last game, they ran a lot of action with him as a screener for some cuts for shooters and some weave action. And it was great in the sense that he executed. They would get the 3-point shot off. They would make the 3. And so those little things are going to happen in greater succession for him. And again, the minute that those injuries hit, Adem Bona is in play for easy mid-round value, if not, more than that. He's got to be a part of the game plan. He's got to be setting screens for ball handlers so he can get to the offensive glass and he can get offensive rebounds. And he can get his scoring up over 10 a game and get his rebounds up closer to like 8 a game. And he can get his blocks and steals up to an average of 3 plus. And with the good field goal percentage, do all the things that we saw late last season. But that was top 20 value, and that's hard to come by. And it's a long season, folks. We're in chapter 2 or 3 of 23 chapters in this book. So luxury stash, he checked all the boxes. Your roster will determine if you can hang on to that. So, all right, let's get out of Philly and let's get to Sacramento, where they got throttled by Minnesota at home. Domantas Sabonis is very banged up. This is not good news for him this season. It's all things going wrong at the same time. The team's pretty much not his anymore. I'm pretty sure he's been asking out of Sacramento the entire time. I think everybody involved with this organization is tired of this organization. It's super toxic and obviously toxic. Fans were chanting for Keon Ellis to get in the game. The entire arena is chanting for Keon Ellis to get in the game because they're complaining about defense in Sacramento, and their best defensive player is not on the court. And the coach is out there at the podium saying, whoever plays defense will get into the game. No, Doug, you're not allowed to put Keon in the game because you don't get control of the lineup card. That wasn't something that you negotiated when you became the coach of the Sacramento Kings. And you knew that when you took the job. And now you have to talk around that because your owner, Vivek Ranadive, is maybe the worst owner in basketball. And he might be one of the worst owners in professional sports. So what do we do with this? Well, I think Zach LaVine's going to be productive no matter what the rest of the way. This is the guy that Vivek wanted. As long as Zach LaVine doesn't get tired of this, I think Zach LaVine will be a top 60-ish, fantasy play the rest of the way with all sorts of risk for not wanting to play through an injury or whatever have you, but deal with that when you get there. DeMar DeRozan and Dennis Schroeder started well enough, but the last week or so has dropped them down to the top 100. Malik Monk, top 100. And nobody in Sacramento in terms of the front office wants Malik Monk around there. So do with that whatever you will. He has played well when he's been on the floor. It's all of the behind the scenes maneuvering and, whatever Sacramento wants to do with Malik Monk, which is apparently not much, but he's been a top 100 guy. He might actually be one of the safer plays here. Russell Westbrook might end up being the best one the rest of the way. I can easily see Russell Westbrook just being the guy and no great reasoning behind it. And he being completely fine for what he is right now. No real fall off from last year. You're just living by the Russ and dying by the Russ. And he might be a top 75 guy the rest of the way and play the rest of the slate. Though he got jerked around with the minutes last night. But that was a flashpoint game, and we'll just see how they bounce back. They had a communication practice before that it's going down the tubes quick. And I don't even know if they're smart enough to get Keon Ellis in the game at this point. What an easy win from an optics standpoint, and also, heaven forbid, a basketball standpoint. Get Keon Ellis in the game, and you'll probably get like a third of the crowd off of your back. The only player that didn't have a negative plus minus in last night's game, Keon Ellis, because they put him in the fourth quarter when the game was already out of hand. And that's insulting. It's just insulting. It's insulting to everybody's intelligence. And yet they don't even know that. Like, they have no clue. Sacramento, you're now officially so bad that I am paying more attention to you. It's a sickness, I tell you. The team's playing today. The Lakers at Charlotte. So we got Austin Reeves as probable now. Thank goodness for that. I had a bunch of teams that were doing so good, and then Reeves is not there, and they're not doing as good without him. Who would have known? So if he plays, I think there's some, back-to-backs in the tail end of the week. We're going to kind of watch the back-to-back thing for him. And I think teams in general, by the way, are going to be way more careful with injuries as Jalen Green comes back, hurts the hamstring that he was out with. And you got all these other high-profile names like De'Aaron Fox coming back from hamstrings, and people complaining, why is it taking so long? It's a hamstring. That's why it's taking so long. We got Luka had the Dyson Daniels treatment in his last game. I guess it's a buy low moment, but we're talking about Luka, so who cares? There's no such thing as a buy low there. But that's what happened. And so it knocked him to number 5 in 9 cat leagues. So, take that for whatever it's worth. Now, Jake LaRavia, B150 darling-ish. I mean, I wasn't getting over my skis with LaRavia. There's stat set issues here. But he's on a top 65 to 75 run here over the last week. 14 points, 1 triple, 6 boards, 3 assists, 2.3 steals, 56% from the field, and 69% from the foul line. That's one of the issues there. I need more overall cash counting stats from him in general. But look, if you didn't already know that Jake LaRavia was this good, I wouldn't blame you. It's Memphis, it's Sacramento, it's the weird trade, and that's the deal in LA that's not big. For the money they paid, it was one of the best deals of free agency. Also, JJ Redick completely knows what he's working with here. He was recruiting Jake LaRavia, and probably heavily so, because that's the key to winning, whether it's fantasy or reality basketball, is, can I get a really good player for cheap, please? Can I get a Keon Ellis? Can I get a Colin Gillespie? Can I get a Jake LaRavia to come in and do starters work so I can spend my money elsewhere? I don't want to spend money on the Domantas Sabonises of the world or the Zach LaVine. Okay, I promise I won't do that. But you get my point. So they knew, and I think this is a great sign for Jake LaRavia's overall value in Los Angeles. I mean, you're going to get LeBron James back. They love themselves some Marcus Smart. When Gabe Vincent comes back, they love themselves some Gabe Vincent, making you think, who's making the calls here in Los Angeles? LeBron will come back, and it's going to be crowded. And Jake LaRavia might be an instant drop in certain circles. The staying power of Jake LaRavia might be informed by the discussion that JJ Redick is talking about with the press about how he recruited him. And it might give you some insight there that will help contribute to a hold. And if LaRavia can just simply be a 30-minute per game guy, he's a connector. He fits what Los Angeles is doing well. Great relationship with Austin Reeves off the floor. And being a guy that's willing to move the ball and play defense, those kinds of guys fit in everywhere. And it feels like if they can get into a rhythm there with LaRavia at 30 minutes per game, you guys might have a top 75 play or a top 90 or a top 100 play on the season in a 150, 200 player league. That is worth quite a bit. Marcus Smart has got a top 125 grade over the last week, though that might be the best sample of the season for him. Perfect from the foul line over that span. Low-end stats. Just know that Marcus Smart is a guy they want to have in the game right now. I'm not believing in his health, his ability to sustain health and injury issues over the course of the season. I'm not believing in his overall play. I'm not sitting here looking at Marcus Smart and thinking he's anything close to what he was in the past. at least he doesn't look like dead money on the floor. DeAndre Ayton, rock solid over the last 3 games, 21 points, 8 boards, 1.7 blocks, while hitting 75.7% from the field, 85% from the foul line. Probably a bit of a sell high moment for DeAndre Ayton, but not likely that you'll be successful doing that because of the narrative surrounding the guy, DeAndre Ayton. All right, Charlotte, we got LaMelo Ball missed the last 3 games. He's going to miss another with his right ankle impingement. Otherwise, top 15 value. Miles Bridges now probable with back spasms. Colin Sexton off the injury report with a neck strain. Brandon Miller week to week, hopefully getting closer to day to day, maybe toward the back end of this week, but probably the week after that. Ryan Kalkbrenner, maybe the story of this team, top 30 to 45 over 9 games, 27 minutes a game, 9.7 boards, 1 steal, 2.6 blocks, 81% from the field. It's just 5 attempts a game, but still, that's pretty cool in a nutshell. I really don't have anything to say about this other than as long as he doesn't get targeted defensively, he's going to get these numbers. I don't know if teams care enough to target him defensively. I don't think he's even close to the top of the scatter. They actually just say, oh, there's a tall guy. Maybe just don't go near that guy. I don't know. I would probably, if I was playing the Hornets, want to play this guy off the floor, or who knows, maybe not. Keep him out there. Moussa Diabate would be the one I wouldn't want to see on the floor. And he's actually doing kind of okay in fantasy leagues, just outside of the top 150 and only 20 minutes per game. Kind of the opposite of last year where he would get 30 minutes per game and couldn't get into this range for value. He's getting you 10.7 boards, 1.3 blocks, 64% from the field. And then, of course, the foul shooting is bad. But I like the combo. It's a little bit of thunder and lightning out there where they're just like, Diabate can fly around and cover your more athletic players, and then Kalkbrenner can just sort of stand there and be tall. But I wouldn't want to let any team get away with size when you can simply just play the size off the floor. But again, I don't think they care to do that against Charlotte. Bridges is a top 50 to 70 guy. Con Knipple has improved a lot over the last couple of weeks. Top 100 to 110 on the season and 31.5 minutes per game, 16 points over 3 threes, 6 boards, 2 assists. The defensive stats aren't there. The percentages are fine. He's hitting 40% from deep this season on 8 attempts, especially if LaMelo Ball is out long-term. I like him playing with LaMelo, but if LaMelo is going to be gone, he might just hang out in this range all season long. And again, you don't care about the defense. You don't care about some of the longer-term issues for Con Knipple. So a late-round grade for him going forward. Sion James getting minutes, but not really producing. And I just want to watch and see if he can get better at basketball and if he can improve the defensive stat game. Just 0.6 combined defensive stats. That's not going to get it done in fantasy leagues. In a top 200 sense is I think where he will land if he keeps producing like this. But you want to see more from a guy like this because there's definitely physical tools there. Colin Sexton, questionable with the neck injury. Some crazy inefficient games, but 11 turnovers in those 2 games, that is. But, before the injury, 40% shooting and 29.4 minutes per game. So there's a little bit more value jump that he can have there. And actually, if you want to go deeper, Trey Mann might actually be a late round value going forward in Charlotte. He's had 3 contests with 27 minutes per game, 17 points, over 2 threes, 5 boards, 3 assists. It's the typical 40% shooting, and it's not going to be good in Charlotte probably ever. And at the same time, we've seen him do this in the past. We've seen him be a late round guy in the past. He has his own injury concerns as well, so you're not dropping anybody of value to go get him. But if you're sitting there looking at a streamer, you're looking at a player that's got a dead weight, give Trey Mann a look. Let's get to Portland at Orlando. No real injuries for Portland. Denny Avdia has been going off lately. A top 5 and 6 fantasy play over the last 3 games, which is big old numbers. 30 points, 9 boards, 6 assists. He gets you a steal, he gets you a block. 91% from the foul line on 11 attempts per game to go with 3.7 turnovers. That's coming back. And we were talking about Denny Avdia in the other sense prior to this explosion. So it's going to be up and down for him based on his heavy weighted numbers. And when the going's good, you probably want to move on. And when he slides back with all the efficiency and people are looking at him as a top 80 guy for whatever segment, you play the other side of the coin and try to get some value there. But mostly you want to hang on to a guy like Denny Avdia because he's just part of what they're doing in Portland and is locked into his role. The only concern for him overall is injuries. Drew Holiday still enjoying his top 50 to 70 start. I don't see any reason to kind of go out and get ahead of this thing. I mean, we could play the injury card, but I kind of just feel like as long as Portland's in it for the play-in, he's going to play, target, say, 68 ball games on the year, and you can manage those absences, and it'll just be fine. And you might not see the name value for Drew Holiday after the down seasons in Boston, and people think he's 82 years old. Shaedon Sharpe cleaning up a little bit, back into the top 65 to 100 range after being toward the bottom of the top 200 because he was shooting like 20% at one point. He's getting limited minutes. That's not great, but he's still scoring with them. 21.7 boards, 2.3 steals. That's fine. It's not the breakout that a lot of people want. And with Shaedon, you need volume. So the low minutes and the Jeremy Grant production is probably, one of the things keeping him back a little bit. But let's hang on a little bit before we worry about him not getting 30 plus minutes per game and him not having a big volume potential for Portland. It's early, and he's been a little dinged up as well. Toumani Camara trending again toward disappointment. Late round value on the season, 40% from the field, 68% from the foul line. These things can be improved upon. The turnovers are bad. It's just disappointing for him. I would say keep an eye on the knee thing. That could low-key be a part of this, but mostly he's moved toward the bottom of the pecking order a little bit here. He's more of a fourth pecking order guy, fifth pecking order guy, and he needs to be more of like the third pecking order guy, and that will bring all of the numbers up together at the same time and give that kind of knockout potential when you look at a guy that can really crank it up to top 50 really, really quick. And that's why he went so high in drafts. Head-to-head owners probably not as excited about some of those numbers, and you'd see him slide in those situations a little bit. But by and large, everybody was on Camara because he's a badass, and I don't think that's changed. Donovan Clingan playing mid-round basketball, so right on track, though he did slow down a little bit. It's ups and downs, ups and downs. Jeremy Grant, the top 50 heater to start the season. And it's going to be so easy to say sell high with Jeremy Grant. Like, he has 5 or 6 seasons of being this guy early in the year and then tanking, or whatever the reason was, but not playing the last third of the season. So this feels different though. He's kind of just looking happy and willing to play his role, and it's not, he's not trying to be the number one guy. At least that's my impression watching film. He's hitting 50% of his shots. Last year that number was 37. So 42% from deep this year. Last year was 36. So his numbers are up. Last year's numbers were also down. So I don't know. I kind of think 75, 80 is a reasonable expectation for him going forward. And I would kind of downgrade the idea that we just chop a third of the season off for him at the end of the year. I think it's one of those cases where maybe he wants to play a little bit more basketball than he's been playing. So probably, I don't know if it's buy low territory, but he's undervalued. I'll put it to you that way. Orlando, so they got Jalen Suggs is out in this game, so a little less shot attempts in the box score. Maybe that's the pretext for Desmond Bane to have a bounce back. I really don't know what this kind of day-to-day is going to look like with getting Desmond Bane more consistent in the box score. This falls on Franz Wagner as much as it falls on Paolo Banchero. Banchero's been catching all the heat for it, but Wagner, the two of them have to stop playing with their head down. They have to have a philosophy that values ball movement. And the unfortunate part for this partnership that they've created in Orlando is so much of their game is getting downhill and using their physical advantages to muscle their way to the hoop. And the problem, if you're doing that with 75% of your effort, is that you're not seeing all of the rest of the stuff going out there. You're not stretching the defense from side to side. It's bully ball. And they really need to figure out a way to manufacture motion in that offense and be intentional about it, and then rely on the bully ball with 14 seconds or less on the shot clock. Make your first action something that's designed to get things stretched out and get that motion. And I don't know if they've got that mentality, but to their credit, Jamal Mosley, or to the coach's credit, Jamal Mosley, he is talking like that. I think he understands the stakes here that the team wagered their future on this. I don't know that the players understand that they wagered their future on this to the extent that they have to change their preferred way of playing the game. That's the part where that give in has not happened, and it might take an entire half season. I don't know why it would do that. I mean, this is super clear. You got to get this guy going. Hopefully they can do it. And this first speed bump that we saw after the big game is something we just see less of going forward. Maybe we get the speed bump once every week instead of getting the speed bump every game, every week. But and then you get the speed bump once every 8 games, would be ideal for the Orlando Magic and Desmond Bane. They'll find out the hard way. Let's get out of that. We've talked about that a lot this season. Let's get to Washington at Detroit. We got Bilal Coulibaly, questionable with a left calf injury. Bad timing. He was doing just fine. And, back into the injury report, Chris Middleton, questionable. Of course, we're going to be watching to see if they turn the page on the old dudes. CJ McCollum was looking like he might be dead to rights, but he had the bounce back. And like I said at the time with Tim Woodson on the show, this is a given. He had shot 10% in the game before that. He's been slow all season long. If he had not bounced back, I would be really, really worried. It was a given that he would bounce back, and now he's bounced back. So I think this resets the clock on, is CJ McCollum the leader, the veteran leader and a basketball leader on this team? And the answer is yes. Okay, he's probably got at least another 2 to 4 weeks on this. The fact that he was able to kind of reach back and give you those numbers tells me that he's not done playing basketball just yet. So probably throwing a dart at least a half a season with CJ McCollum at the helm, and maybe 2/3 of a season. And then you get into the trade deadline and you got to see what's up from that point. And this is important stuff. I mean, Chris Middleton's not playing a lot. He's playing 20 minutes, and turning the corner on Chris Middleton just brings, my guy, Justin Champagnie, into the fold. And it's not enough to consistently bring production, and it's not enough to consider him a waiver wire ad in standard formats. And, you look at the Tristan Vukcevic's of the world as we look to the last third and we look to the last 50% of the season, and you go, hopefully sooner, these guys are not going to be getting in, and it's going to be more of the old style statistics that you see in Washington. Alexander Sarr, of course, just blowing up and having a great season, top 20 value. He'll be the guy. Keyshawn George slowed down a little bit with an illness, as that's going around the league, by the way, but still top 50 to 80 on the season. And this is the low part. So expect him to bounce back and start pushing back into the early round numbers that we were seeing prior to that, because he's clearly the guy there. He might be the guy. I know Sarr's got the big draft status and the big name, and he's even physically just a bigger and maybe even more exciting physical specimen. But Keyshawn George has got all the tools. He's the guy that, when you look at this team, if you want to build around somebody and make it work, it's Keyshawn George, at least at this stage, until you want to maybe theoretically be a good team in Washington. We'll see. Trey Johnson has fallen to the bottom of the top 200 on the season. He's been dealing with some back issues, rookie stuff. I think this is a great time to take a look at Trey Johnson, because they definitely want him to be good. It might be slow going. You never know with these rookies if it's going to take off right away. But he does have a fairly consistent stat set, and that makes it easier to plan on. You're going to get mediocre numbers. They're not going to sink you with zeros or something like that. So Trey Johnson, definitely worth a look in the bottom of the top 200. And at some point, I do see top 75, top 100 run for him in the last third of the season. So you can kind of extrapolate how much risk you want to take on there. Let's see. CJ McCollum got him, and I think that's it for these guys. Let's get to Detroit. So Isaiah Stewart, I mentioned he's out. Tobias Harris has been dealing with a right ankle sprain. He's only played 6 of the team's 10 games. Some of this is all in the pot of Jalen Duren magically becoming a top 20 play on the season. Duren is a 19-point, 12-rebound average, 2.3 combined defensive stats. That was an issue for him in the past. 65% from the field, 83.9% from the foul line. That's coming back. He shot 67% from the foul line last season. So this is a huge value shift. Everything else is in mostly the right spot. You take the defensive numbers and some of the rebounding and the shot attempts, and they're a little bit high-ish. And at the same time, they want Jalen Duren just crushing out there. When you have the big that's just going out there and getting a little bit maybe more shots than they deserve, but they're just putting their shoulder into the other team and getting them on their heels, it opens it up for everybody else. Now, it doesn't look like that with Cade Cunningham's numbers. He's top 25, 55. 8 and 9 cat leagues. He's still battling back from early season efficiency issues, but Cade looks great. Cade looks like he's taken yet another step forward. And to have somebody like Jalen Duren taking up space both in the lane and on the scouting report, it's just going to make his job easier. So when Cade Cunningham has a top 5 stretch for 2 months, you can almost look at a Jalen Duren and say, it's what you're doing, sir, that allows me to do what I'm doing. And oh my God, what a concept in life, teamwork. Asar Thompson not only can't shake the free throw issues, but he just added an ankle issue to the mix. And I'm pretty concerned here. It's all sorts of different things. It's the lack of 3-point shooting. It's obviously the free throws drag his value back big. But you gotta, if you have bad free throw and you don't shoot threes, you gotta be more poppy. You gotta get more than 14 points. You gotta get more than 6 boards and 3 assists. I believe in the player. I just don't know if he's going to get the types of numbers that we need for him to meet that top 60 ADP with where he was at. The bet on Asar Thompson was similar to the bet on Amen Thompson the year before, with the exception of with Amen, there wasn't really any question about what he would do when on the floor. With Asar, whether it's his rookie season or any time to date, it's just this kind of black box. You don't know what the numbers are going to be coming out of it. And that, in addition to the heavy free throw, it's really just, it's crushing his value. I'm wondering if we should be projecting top 100 for Asar Thompson rather than the 50 and the 60 that he was drafted at. One of the most fascinating players in the league. He's got so much physicality. He's one of the top 5 maybe defensive specimens in the league. And yet we might have to downgrade this. It might be a post-hype season next year for Asar Thompson. Ron Holland, I was not even mad at his 3 of 15 in last night's game. He was all over the floor. He was just, diving around, doing all the Ron Holland stuff. They gave him 33 minutes with the aforementioned players not in the game, but he looks sharp. He's only 150, 160 on the season. I've been talking about him a lot. I mean, it's pretty easy to get him in fantasy leagues right now. You don't have to make a big fab bid or anything. He's getting you back end value at 23 minutes per game during a dip in his value. So at some point, I feel like Ron Holland will be a thing. Maybe it happens when Tobias Harris gets, more missed time or, whatever injury occurs. Ron Holland plugs in and gets like 28 minutes per game. And you're looking at like top 75. That's too rich, but like top 90, 100 Ron Holland. And you could have low hide this thing and had him at the back end of your roster and plugged him in for some, emergency statistics, but at the same time had the upside. So Ron Holland, interesting there. Let's look at Cleveland at Miami tonight. Cleveland, the injuries are Garland's back. The back-to-backs are in question going forward, but this is a fast return for him. This is all good for Darius Garland. Donovan Mitchell, he's been the second best fantasy player over the last 4 games. Big old stat line. This Mitchell taking the ball back concept has been good so far. We'll take it and just hope for health. Jalen Tyson's one of my favorite waiver wire pickups right now, sitting on a top 30 to 55 run over the last 4 games, 14 points, 3 triples, 5 boards, 2.5 assists, 2.1 combined defensive stats. Great percentages. He's doing it in 27 minutes per game. It feels like he could do this all season long. It feels like he can get top 80 to 100 all season long. Guess what? If he plays all season long, you might look at Jalen Tyson as a top 75 finisher this season. He might do better than that. All the things are in the right place. He's athletic enough to handle this workload. He's versatile enough for all of these things he does to work out both in a fantasy and a reality level. And if the team hadn't been as banged up as fast, I think it would have been tougher going for him. But right now, all things sit pretty for Jalen Tyson, and I like him as a must-roster player, so take that. I think the guy that's going to lose out will be Sam Merrill with Darius Garland coming back. And Merrill, because he hits so many damn threes, can get you into the top 50 range pretty quickly. I think he'll be more of a top 100, 125 guy as this season sort of progresses. They paid him, and that's the thing I think that keeps him on a fantasy team. And keeps him on the floor in reality basketball. So Sam Merrill, people are completely undervaluing him just in general. So he's available in so many situations. I think if you're throwing the dart now with Sam Merrill, you want to just call him a late round play, but feel fairly confident that he's going to get you that. Evan Mobley, big poppy numbers. There might actually be some buy low potential here, though, because he's hitting just 67% from the foul line on a very heavy 6 attempts per game. The efficiency is generally down. So when people just look at the overall ranks, they see a top 30 guy, and he was hyped and drafted as an early second round guy in a lot of situations. So a ton of hype on Evan Mobley, and then you see him play, and he looks like he should be doing better. You go to the number, and it's top 30. I don't know if there's enough there for a buy low, but it's not easy to get a guy like Evan Mobley on your basketball team. For Miami, you got the Bam Adebayo situation. He's day-to-day, foot, toe injuries, big men, especially as they get heavier like he is. Bad news. So Norman Powell, top 30 value to start the season. If you were thinking about fading him because of the eventual return of Tyler Hero, there might be enough basketballs to go around to where it doesn't matter. And then Norman Powell just needs to stay healthy. What does that look like? Could he be a top 50 play for the next month? Well, let's see how long Bam Adebayo is out. And let's see if this leads to something else down the road for Bam Adebayo. But Norman Powell's profile is very good right now. Andrew Wiggins is quietly amassed top 80 value. That's just what he does. Jaime Jaquez banged up his ankle in his last game, but he's just fine right now. Top 80 numbers this season. It looks like they want to play him, and they're probably going to need to play him. So I think it's a great situation for Jaquez. Khalil Ware, top 90 to 100 in just 21 and a half minutes. Starting to turn the corner a little bit. Obviously, the Bam Adebayo injury is one of the reasons you just don't drop Khalil Ware. This is going to be bumpy, even if Adebayo is out. I could see them holding Ware back to some degree. Maybe the beneficiary for anything that happens to Bam Adebayo is Nikola Jovic. He went off on Saturday, 29 points, 10 of 16 shooting, 3 threes, 9 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 6 turnovers. It moved the overall body of work into the top 180 to 200 range. That's how bad Nikola Jovic has been this season. And he's done this in now 22 minutes per game. The problem with Jovic is the stat set. He needs to go big like this in order to just offset the deficiencies. And I don't know that this is going to be consistent while Bam Adebayo is out, for any game that Bam Adebayo is out. But it's a good sign. They just paid the guy. He's kind of sort of taken a step forward, but it hasn't happened this season. And he knows it, and the Heat know it, and they're talking openly about it. Maybe this time off is the thing that gets him going. But unfortunately, I just think he needs 30 minutes a game to be a top 100 guy. And I think he's going to get closer to 25, even when the going is good. You got 2 big name centers there, and it's just not going to happen, I don't think. But as this team gets banged up, they do have a lot of players, the aforementioned, that are potentially good in fantasy leagues. And even the guys like Drew Smith and Davion Mitchell hang around the back end of the top 150. And then you get that proverbial one player that's out. You get those 2, Pell Larson. And I like the fact that Miami is actually fantasy relevant more so than normal this season. Let's get to the San Antonio at Chicago game. A lot of folks will be watching this one tonight. Dylan Harper, obviously out a while. Luke Cornett might be back. I think he's a game time decision at this point. Left ankle sprain, so you get a little Twin Towers action there. But really the story here is De'Aaron Fox. He got back on Saturday, was fine. It was a top 50 game, 24 points, all the goodies. This is fine. I think he is clearly the guy that's going to run the show in San Antonio. And I think, Wemby is Wemby, and he's just going to be Wemby. And what do they tell you? It's De'Aaron Fox's show or whatever they're going to do. They're going to give the ball to De'Aaron Fox, and that's going to be that. Stephen Castle will be that's a primary, secondary, like tertiary, I think is the third. He's like the tertiary playmaker of the bunch. And this is actually good for him. He's not going to be getting like 7 turnovers a game anymore. I think he had 2 in the last game. Yeah, 2 turnovers. He missed his 3-pointers, but he hit all his free throws. So good on that. 14 points on 5 of 13 shooters. For him, it's about minimizing the bad. He's going to get his points. He's going to get his assists, 14 of them in the last game. But you just want the turnovers to come back, less foul shots, less field goal attempts, and everything else will be fine for Stephon Castle. And everybody can worry about Dylan Harper when Dylan Harper gets back. I think what Dylan Harper will carve out space in the Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie, Harrison Barnes, that sort of streamer section of the Spurs team. I think that Dylan Harper takes from them, and he, by virtue of having a good stat set, will play in the top 125 to 150 range. So this is fine, from a fantasy perspective. And as for Vassell, I honestly think he's waiver wire material. Like, he's good enough to step into the void if somebody else gets hurt. But even then, I don't think he's crossing the top 100 threshold. There's just not enough basketballs. He's too much of a complementary piece. I think you can drop Devin Vassell and go get somebody with just even standing late round value. You're not even looking at big upside. You're not even looking at guaranteed long-term late round value. I think somebody else is more likely to get you that late round value than Devin Vassell is. On the Chicago side, Josh Giddey dinged his ankle up on Saturday, played through it. We'll see how this looks here tonight. It's a bit of a slow start for him. It's basically the foul shooting, and chances are he will have some sort of a regression there. It's a little bit of a buy low. Maybe you can parlay the ankle thing into some concern about Josh Giddey long-term. Take the top 30 to 50 number, wave it around, and see if you can get yourself what really is a top 15 guy when everything's going normally, when everything's going right. So take those numbers, see if you can maybe get a second or third round player to bring back one Josh Giddey. Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, I think this is their swan song week. So, get out there, use them. Teams will sometimes feed these guys knowing that Kobe White is coming back and going to take that basketball. Billy Donovan's a little bit of an old school guy, so I don't know if he thinks like that. But anyway, Modest Bazelis, speaking of old school Billy Donovan stuff, he's not going to give Modest Bazelis the ball and get out of the way. He's just outside of the top 100 on the season, 28 minutes, 14 points, just under 2 threes, 5 boards, 1.8 combined defensive stats. I mean, these are not jump off the board numbers. Modest Bazelis is a jump off the page kind of a player when you watch him play and you see what he's capable of. And these numbers are just not that. I think this is a Billy Donovan Bazelis thing. The minute that they give the ball to Bazelis and get out of the way. And in fairness to Billy Donovan, Bazelis has got to do his part. It's got to be both things at the same time. But right now, it's neither. And Bazelis, who was a easily hyped 5th round guy, with momentum heading into draft season, not getting it done. And this was one of the concerns that kept me from being kind of over and beyond with Modest Bazelis. And I'm very happy that I did not go over and beyond, but it's early. So, Doc, if you're listening, you have hope. Milwaukee at Dallas. Kevin Porter a ways to go. Taurean Prince got bad news with the neck injury, so that takes about 20 minutes out of the rotation. Not really going to impact much. Perhaps you see more Kyle Kuzma, and wished you hadn't. Giannis starting to slow down a little bit, down into the top 35 to 50 over the last 4 games instead of mid-first round value in a roto setting. So, Giannis, I think he's trying to make something happen this season. And I don't know if this is like a move to try to get people to play with him in Milwaukee. Now, the cap situation in Milwaukee is not great. You've got dead money on the cap, and that makes it harder for him to say, hey, come here, we can all afford it, all the things. And then you're in a small market. But I do think that Giannis would prefer to be the center of gravity in his future rather than being the second guy heading somewhere else. So he is playing like gangbusters to start this season. The fact that this slowdown is hitting is probably fairly hidden. You got a guy with knee concerns. And while Milwaukee is winning right now, I don't have their record queued up in front of me off the top of my head, but I'll get that here in 2 seconds. The minute that record goes south, the minute this team goes south, the minute these stories about wherever he's going and this, that, and the other, whenever that starts happening, that's when the risk really starts kicking in. Right now, you are sitting in a risk-free zone, I think, as far as perceptions go. I trade Giannis. I don't draft Giannis, and I trade Giannis. And that's okay. I mean, in a head-to-head situation, it all changes, but I play roto leagues mostly. Regardless, head-to-head or not, you want somebody who's active at the end of the year. And unless he can drag them to the playoffs, and at 6-4, I think that's good for 7th place right now. In the suddenly stout Eastern Conference, I'm not sold on Milwaukee at all. that this is an entirely Giannis-inspired 6-4. And I think he's going to pay the price as the season goes on. And we're starting to see the cracks right now. Ryan Rollins had a little bit of a tough week, top 85 to 120, despite hitting 50% of his shots. Some of the stat set issues, which kept me from getting way out ahead on Ryan Rollins, which just had me kind of moderately ahead on Ryan Rollins. 1.6 combined defensive stats, only 29 minutes. You got some bad free throw shooting or mediocre free throw shooting, high turnovers. It's just not as hyped as it might have seemed when he was a top 20 guy getting picked up off the waiver wire and having huge games with a lot of attention. Ryan Rollins, the sell high moment has probably passed us if I had to guess. Maybe it's because Miles Turner is finally on the board. Top 15 to 30 production over the last 4 games, 4.8 combined defensive stats. That's how you know it's too rich. 14 and 7, 2.5 triples. It's good in the sense that he needed to get going because it was bad for Miles Turner. I don't know if you can sell high with this line, but because of all of the Milwaukee concerns, I'm definitely selling Miles Turner rather than keeping Miles Turner. On the Dallas side of this game, which, by the way, I took the +2.5, -110 on FanDuel for this game based on the desperation factor for Dallas and some of the fatigue factor that I think you will see out of Milwaukee coming off of a tough game against Houston that went down to the wire. Now, the motivation might be there. Milwaukee might be pissed off about that loss and look at this Dallas team and want to take it out on them. So I'm not over my skis. It'd be like a 1-unit play, but that Dallas situation is desperate. There was just a report today that there's like, I don't know, what are they, temporary seats placed around Nico Harrison. This is Mark Stein reporting this, like at home games. And I guess the implication is that if he needs a fast exit, they can move the seats out of the way and he can get out of there as fast as possible. And that's not funny. I mean, his safety should not be a concern, right? But it's not a matter of if, but when he is let go as general manager in that same report. And just do it already. Get your I can't say that in the context of that last report. Get your recently let go GM bounce and get back in the game. You can still do this. You get the stench out of the room and it's a new day. Dallas, you can do this. But that is one of the dumbest trades in NBA history, and it's not getting any better. And Anthony Davis, questionable for this game and wants to play, but Nico's being safe about it. And frankly, I don't think I blame him. I mean, if Anthony Davis got hurt, a la Jalen Green, a la name the guy that came back too early and got hurt, and also it's Anthony Davis, I don't blame him. But I mean, it's rock in a hard place, and this is the kind of game that you need to play. Dallas, what's their 3-7? Where are we at here? I'll get that record. Dallas, you are at 3-7. 3-7, and it's not looking good at all. Your rookie's not playing well. Derek Lively's doubtful. Klay Thompson questionable. Daniel Gafford is banged up but playing. He's normalized Gafford to a top 100-ish guy in his 20 minutes, but had a little bit of a first-round run there, just doing Daniel Gafford stuff. It feels like they're just putting whichever center can actually suit up onto the floor, and they're just taking turns being hurt. Not a great start considering it's November 10th. PJ Washington all over the board here. I mean, if you don't care about efficiency, he's great. If you care about efficiency, he's just top 150-ish with the bad efficiency stats. Lots of good poppy numbers there. He would benefit from having better players taking the ball out of his hands so he could just do things a little bit more efficiently. Cooper Flagg's still outside of the top 100. 96.2% foul shooting, boosting his number, but he's only hitting 40% of his shots. The temps are down at 13, just 2.8 cash counters. He needs like every stat to go better. And the fact is that free throw shooting is coming down. So he's even a little artificially high in this measurement here. Not great. D'Angelo Russell not getting it done over the last 4 games. Well outside of the top 250, 21 minutes per game. He might be part of a solution there, but when the team is playing bad, it's going to be bad for him at this stage of his career. There's probably a late round player in there somewhere if that player emerges, feel free to jump on the train, but don't worry about that train leaving because it might not be worth the ride. Minnesota at Utah. Terrence Shannon Jr. had not been playing and did not step into the Anthony Edwards void. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know how to evaluate players. Well, he had a toe injury, fifth metatarsal or something that's coming out here today. So he's out. Edwards back, hopefully good after his hamstring injury. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Julius Randle, an obvious sell high, by the book sell high. He's got a late first round production to start the season. Obvious sell high. Just do it and tell me what you got for it. Jaden McDaniels right there with him at top 40, enjoying the same nights off for Anthony Edwards. I mean, he's probably going to be, 2 to 3 rounds lesser as Anthony Edwards gets back. Dante DiVincenzo, expect a little slide for him. He's been a top 70, 80 guy on the year. Anthony Edwards, I think he's an obvious buy low. Yeah, there's a little risk with his hamstring, but I think just you bet on Anthony Edwards. Naz Reid had a good game on Sunday, and he's been on a milk carton for the rest of the season, so hopefully this gets him going. It's a buy low moment, or if he's been dropped, you can pick him up. I think he'll be better than he has been, but there are a lot of mouths to feed. And if Julius Randle is going to have that much production, it's going to take it away from somebody right now. That's been Naz Reid. Utah, not a single player inside the top 100 over the last 4 games. Not Keontae George. He's kind of right there. It's the low defensive stats. 45.5% from the field's good for him, but it actually drags value back, especially on 16.5 attempts per game. So Keontae George, mostly good if you care about percentages and defensive stats. That's why he's not in the top 100. Not worried about him at all. Lauri Markkanen, 38% on 20 attempts, kept him outside of the top 100 this week. Look for the bounce back soon. Yusuf Nurkic, top 160 over the last 4 games. A lot of hype for Yusuf Nurkic on a pickup now that he's the starter with Walker Kessler out for the year. 6 points, 10 boards, 3.5 assists, 1.8 steals, 0.8 blocks. That's great. But like everybody else on a bad team, he shot 31% from the field and 62.5% from the foul line. 2 turnovers. It's all top 160 value. So you can get late round, maybe top 100 value if you don't care about percentages for Yusuf Nurkic. And that's fine because he's got a defined role. You'll live with it. But I don't know that he was worth the 400 plus fab dollars that people were bidding on him out of 1,000 in weekly waiver wire situations. Now, Kyle Filipowski, that's the one we all want to be good. Mild signs of life with 9 points, 10 boards, 2 steals, and a triple. Same efficiency issues as everybody else, but at least a sign of life. I mean, the thing here is you just have to look. It's kind of like the Adem Bona conversation. Like you have a history of whatever value and, whatever situation it was attributed to. With Filipowski, that same situation's right around the corner. And Yusuf Nurkic isn't exactly a healthy guy. So the idea that Kyle Filipowski could be out there in the same role that he was last season, crushing with top 50 value, having some top 20 games in there down the stretch. Yeah, I wonder about his health. And it's not like he's freaking, Michael Jordan or name the tall power forward that we want to compare him to. He's Kyle Filipowski, so there might be some issues duplicating the results, but he looked great in Summer League. The athleticism was there as recently as last season. We'll have to see if there's something that's changed with that. But so it's something is there, and you just got to see if you can buy into that whenever possible. Ace Bailey also chilling with him at the morgue. In the next bet over, somewhat noisy, 12 points, 2 triples, 6 boards, 3 assists, and a steal. But nobody in Utah can get any momentum right now. And Will Hardy at some point needs to have a healthy box score. That's one thing I measure coaches on all the time. It's like, do the players in your system, in your situation, do they perform better or worse than they would normally do in a normal situation? And right now, Utah doesn't have any of that. Therefore, not a good job. New Orleans at Phoenix. New Orleans, Jordan Poole going to miss another handful of games. Zion Williamson has his hamstring issue. Eve Messi is trending toward playing, I believe, with his illness. So a little hodgepodge of big name players and, stuff happening in New Orleans. It just feels like a normal day to me. I don't know. Trey Murphy had a big night, 41 points, 9 rebounds over the weekend, 15 to 22 shooting. That's great. Sort of like the remember me line. And Murphy will be fine as long as he doesn't get hurt. Derek Queen, 24 minutes on Saturday, 13 points, 5 of 14 shooting, 1 3, 5 boards, 8 assists, 4 turnovers, 2 blocks. Whew, that's a lot. Top 125 to 160 for him over the last 4 games in 19 minutes per game. I don't know what to do with this guy. It doesn't look like he can hang on the defensive side at all. And yet here he is producing and will probably be a big part of this team's future. So I think you just plug your nose and you pick him up where you can, when you can, and know that Zion's going to come back. Misi's going to come in, mess things up a little bit. It's going to be messy for him in general as a rookie. It's like you just get your chip on the number when you can, as many times as possible, and hopefully the roulette wheel hits and you are able to have February, March, and April Derek Queen. And the way this gets easier is if he's productive right now. It's probably like a 20% chance that you pick up Derek Queen right now and that you're hanging on to him, say, 4 weeks later. But, you kind of got to get your money in when you can, even when it looks like it does. Herbert Jones, top 90 to 100 basketball over the last 4 games, so slowly improving there. 12.5 points, 2.3 triples, kind of the normal stat set after that, 55.6% from the field. So we just want to see more from Herbert Jones. And if this continues the way it is, I think we will see more from Herbert Jones. He's more of a top 60 play when things are going well. Jose Alvarado, top 85 to 120 over the last 4 games. Doing Jose Alvarado stuff. We see this all the time with him. When he's healthy and he's a part of the team, you can get a late round value point guard. I like him over Jeremiah Fears, who gets minutes, opportunities. 31 minutes, has been kind of what he's been getting, 26 minutes per game on the season. It's not converting into value. So while it's kind of looks good and it feels like you got your shiny toy, and sometimes you'll see him do something really cool, it's just not there from a fantasy value standpoint. So I will pass on Jeremiah Fears in lieu of other players. Saddiq Bey, bottom of the top 200. So the numbers aren't quite there for Saddiq Bey, but we keep an eye on him because he shows up every once in a while. Phoenix is great. I mean, unless you have Jalen Green, that's a gut punch. Out with a hamstring injury, if I had to guess, it's 2 months. That's just my ballpark guess. Jan Gambadoro, who covers the Suns, he's got a great record with the news breaking. I think he had it at like 4 to 6. This thing just looked painful, and it's got its own history, and he's an explosive player. It's a lot of different things at once for Jalen Green. I think it's going to be 2 months is my read there. So this opens it up, and it was already wide open. And even with Jalen Green, I think a lot of this stuff was going to work out because the players that get their fantasy value, they get it in ways that aren't really threatened by Jalen Green, like Royce O'Neal, fine with Jalen Green. Grayson Allen, fine with Jalen Green. These guys are playing top 60 to 70 ball right now. Mark Williams, same range. That's not going to change what Mark Williams does, with or without Jalen Green. But now that Jalen Green's gone, it's wide open for these guys. Dylan Brooks returned, had a good game. He's been a top 60 guy. It feels like the entire team is going to play top 60 ball. And Devin Booker back up into the top 15 to 35 after a slower start. He's been going gangbusters. It's all good. And then you get to Colin Gillespie. He hit the proverbial speed bump that I was literally telling you guys this is going to happen, and you guys just hang on and yada, yada, yada. So he hits the speed bump, and he's down to top 90 to 100 on the season, 25 minutes per game on 39% shooting. So that shooting number is only going to go up. And then all of the responsibilities that he has on the floor, they're only going to get greater. They love him defensively. They love him on offense. He's an offensive engine. He's bigger than people think he is. He's just all of the things. He leaves great defensive plays on film all over the place. So he earns the respect of everybody else on the floor. So when he gets the ball and he's going to run some offense and it's going to be a little bit of his show, players don't mind because he's given it on the defensive end. So Colin Gillespie must roster the rest of the season is my guess. Ryan Dunn also doing well, cruising at top 100, whether he starts or comes off the bench. This might be my favorite fantasy team. Who would have thought? Phoenix. Atlanta at the Clippers, I believe, is our last contest of the night. It is. Thank you guys so much for hanging in for, as usual, a long show, which is what we designed this show to do and be. We got Atlanta, Jalen Johnson, questionable, right? Quad contusion. Kristaps Porzingis, just questionable in general. Luke Kennard, also questionable. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, questionable with his low back strain. Dyson Daniels is sitting on 2 weeks of top 40 play. That's probably the top line news in Atlanta, and doing that with the bad foul shooting. Numbers still a little bit down in key areas. You want to see more points. You want to see more participation in general from him in the offense. But this bad start followed by top 40 play still masks a player that has early round potential, top 20 potential. And you have a team without Trae Young and other players that are banged up. I don't think Dyson Daniels forgot how to play basketball this season. If anything, I think he improved. I think starting off, you have a lot of players, and in particular, Alexander Walker, who likes to take shots. I think it sucked the oxygen out of the box score, and now you're seeing the opposite effect of it opening up the minute you have one key injury. You've got Kristaps Porzingis, never really that healthy. Each of the guys that I've talked about or mentioned has dealt with some sort of injury situation in the past. Even Onyeka Okongwu, who I didn't mention, all of these guys have some sort of injury concern hanging around. So a Dyson Daniels has space for more. The buy low window on Dyson Daniels still exists. There's probably a buy low window for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, as he hasn't really capitalized on the Trae Young absence just yet. Top 95 to 140, 8 and 9 cat leagues respectively. Lots of minutes, lots of points. Then it starts to get a little iffy. After that, you get the turnovers, and it just turns into a good but not great situation. We want to see more there. Zach Reese-Shea, top 65 to 95. Doc said that I was turning into a Reese-Shea guy. I was there late last season. He had such great efficiency. It felt like he learned to finish with both hands. He increased his strength. All that converted into the overseas play over the summer, and then slowed down by injury and a full roster in Atlanta to start the season. The skills are there. The top 65 to 95 over the last 4 games doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, that's kind of where I think he sits for the duration of Trae Young being out. And I don't think people are looking at him like that at all. Let's go to the Clippers for our last team, and we'll get out of here. Kawhi Leonard out a couple games, right ankle sprain. Maybe he shouldn't have played 40 minutes or whatever it was in that game. And, this is a weird thing. He's trying to play minutes. He's trying to play, and now he's getting knocked out of games. So whatever that means. James Harden and Ivica Zubac, a little bit behind expectations, this season. And the biggest question for this team is, can John Collins get on track before it gets really annoying for fantasy GMs? Finally made some noise with 19 points, 2 threes, 4 boards, 2 assists, and a steal against Phoenix on Saturday. Just top 135 to 165 on the season, 8 and 9 cat leagues respectively. He can be better than that. Probably needs an injury or two for things to get super easy for him. But I think mostly you just want to see, how do they figure out how to play with him? And maybe it's the case that Ivica Zubac is taking up too much space on the interior offensively. You're good with that, but really with John Collins, what you want to see is some of his versatility start to shine, some of that vertical game, some of the three-point shooting. When John Collins is at his best is when he's being used as a Swiss Army knife. And I don't think, like many teams we've talked about today, that this team is at that point in their progression of figuring out who they are, what they want to be, and what they want to do. John Collins is like 4th on their list, just like he is in terms of fantasy rank, just like he is kind of in general with any other team that he's played with. So I think the next few months will be better for John Collins. I'm not considering a drop, but pretty soon, if he doesn't get consistent, you'll see that happen in a lot of standard leagues. We will close this show off with a Bogdan Bogdanovic reference. 2 games of top 100 value, 29 minutes, 11.5 points, 2 triples, 5 boards, 4.5 assists. Very bogey stuff here. And if he's healthy and other guys are banged up and you're looking for somebody that can get you up and over top 100, Bogdan Bogdanovic has a history of doing that. Some quick news before we get out of here. Steph Curry not listed on the injury report. Al Horford questionable for Tuesday. Mitchell Robinson listed questionable for Tuesday as well. So plan accordingly. Guys, I've lost my voice, but as usual, this is amazing to be able to dump out. This research has happened each of the last 10 seasons or plus, however many seasons I've been doing high stakes competition. It happens no matter what. To have an outlet to put this work on the paper or on the airwaves, it's a direct reflection of the management staff and the team we have over here at Sports Ethos that has allowed me to heal from my various injuries with thoracic outlet syndrome, but also be able to function in an environment where we can put this stuff out there for you guys I'm thrilled with the chance to be able to do that. It's like sitting here. It's got to go somewhere, and you guys should be the ones that profit off of it. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your likes, your subscribes. Follow us at both YouTube if you're watching this on Twitter, and also at Ethos Fantasy NBA. Get to the website, get to the app, which is free, by the way. Check out a membership. That's how we put coal in the engine here. That's how you get all of this cool stuff. The projections, we work on them as much, if not more, than anybody in the projections game. And I don't care if you're talking about Vegas or whatever. I know what we do, and I can't imagine other sane people out there doing that. And we do it for you guys, and it's all inside of these tools. So whether you use the tools or you're just around the website, you know you're getting the best stuff. And that's all the shilling I will do for one day. Thank you to Andre for producing yet another great show. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Fantasy NBA Today, the box score breakdown edition, 30-team extravaganza, presented by FanDuel. See you guys tomorrow at Fantasy NBA Today, time at 10 a.m. Pacific. And also watch out for the box score breakdown tonight. See you guys tomorrow.